Hello there. Government ministers will be wishing they had more armed forces personnel to fill the gaps caused by public sector strikes. Now, if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe and then like and comment below. Here we go again. The strikes start and our Army, Navy and Air Force personnel are put on alert to be called in to keep things running in their normal, excellent military manner. Numbers of available personnel allowing, of course. And while this goes on, we have somewhere in the region of 2,500 homeless veterans on the streets, and the Express reporting that 500 military homes could be allocated to our English Channel new arrivals to relieve the logjam. And I would surmise that a lot of leave could be cancelled and a lot of essential training could be pushed back as a result. And it's at times like this that ministers will be wondering why we have so few people in the military. And all the while a war rages in Europe. And it looks like striking nurses could be joined by ambulance drivers, paramedics, porters, cleaners, catering staff, clerical workers and junior doctors, says The Times. Now, no formal request has yet been made by the Department of Health, but contingency plans under the Military Aid to the Civil Authorities, or MACA, that are already in place will be dusted off and modified where necessary, just in case. And Forces.net reports that some military personnel received ambulance driver training in Wales last year, and they also assisted the NHS throughout the pandemic, of course. And a government spokeswoman said, "We are working with the NHS on a range of options to manage disruption to health and care services during the industrial action. Hospitals will do everything they can to ensure patients and the public are kept safe. However, planned appointments may need to be cancelled and emergency care prioritised to those in need of urgent care only." But having an ambulance with driver and paramedic on board needs to be able to offload their patient into a functioning hospital and then go straight to the next emergency. And there are already copious amounts of stories about people waiting many hours for an ambulance to arrive because they're clogged up in A&E with a patient on board. And the firefighters have already rejected the offer of a 5% pay increase and are balloting for strike action. If they also end up taking industrial action, then the military will be spread even thinner. And it goes without saying that there will be a lot of worried people out there who are waiting for operations and the like. Now, I wonder how long it will be before ministers start mulling over things like reducing speed limits on motorways and maybe nationally in order to try and reduce the number and seriousness of collisions. After all, it would reduce fuel consumption and carbon emissions at the same time, wouldn't it? The government might not be able to overlook that particular opportunity. Now, the Mail is reporting on 2,600 employees in 100 UK companies moving on to a 4-day week with no loss of pay. And further, this isn't because those employees put in extra hours on the 4 days they do work. No, it really is a proper 4-day week, and it's claimed that productivity actually increased. The two biggest companies that have signed up, says the Mail, are Atom Bank and global marketing company Awin, who each have about 450 staff in the UK. They have been accredited by the 4-day week campaign, meaning they have demonstrated that they have genuinely reduced hours for workers rather than forcing them into longer days. Now, once the UK public sector gets to hear about this, you can see the demands flooding in, can't you? Ministers being forced to conduct 4-day week working trials in all their departments. And we'd need a 25% uplift in the numbers where staff have to work 24/7. But those whose jobs won't allow a 4-day working cycle will demand a 25% pay increase instead. You can imagine the uproar, can't you? But those workers would still end up demanding more money anyway. because when people are not at work, they tend to be out and about, and the long weekend breaks would beckon, or maybe a new hobby, all very expensive. And this will lead to most people engaging in a more expensive lifestyle. And what's the point of more free time if you can't enjoy it properly? Now, there are already many people out there probably thinking that many civil servants are already on a 3 or 4 day week working from home for a full week's pay. Another drawback would be that teachers would only get 4 days a week to indoctrinate the children. And what would happen to postal deliveries? And just to make you even more annoyed, it turns out that Just Stop Oil is planning to start their disruptive activities again, with the Telegraph saying it will start today and could last until December the 14th, and they will be doing their normal supergluing, chaining and locking themselves to things, but also organising timed groups of people marching slowly in front of traffic from major roundabouts. And as usual, the police are telling the frustrated public to stay calm and take no action while their officers provide what they're calling a proportionate policing response. And the Met Police tweeted out that they will arrive quickly, deal with the situation efficiently, remove, arrest activists as appropriate, return things to normal as soon as possible. But so far that appears to have been limited to providing sustenance and comfort to the protesters and making sure not a hair on their heads is harmed while gently arresting them. Well, let's hope the courts take a dim view of this and continue to refuse them bail on the basis that they will go straight out of the court and reoffend. Now, one assumes that a combination of a Supreme Court ruling last year that makes blocking roads a lawful protest activity and the wish not to turn these eco-loons into martyrs restricts the police in the actions they take to remove these people, leaving the government unable to deal swiftly with these protesters, much to the chagrin of ministers. And it all goes to show that ordinary people do not have rights. Only loons and newcomers have rights. Now, things in China are really kicking off, and the Chinese police even assaulted and arrested one of the BBC reporters, Ed Lawrence, in Shanghai during the anti-lockdown protests. And it seems these protests are now spreading, and there is talk that this could now actually see the end of Xi Jinping's presidency for life. And the Chinese finance markets and the yuan slumped as a result. But Reuters is reporting today that there are so far no signs of any new protests, and one assumes that the only response from the Chinese authorities will be a massive crackdown. Not sure they have any other option, given Xi Jinping's quest for total domination. But the chief economist of IIF, Robin Brooks, said on Twitter that instability in China could be a disaster for German manufacturing, saying that an actual downturn in China would be very harmful for them, and that in turn would affect the Eurozone and the EU as a whole. And finally, when subscribing, please don't forget to press that little bell and also select the all option, or you won't get any notifications when I publish a new video. And thank you all so much for taking the time to watch the show.